Chapter 4. Keen started back, realizing that a gray-black, flat-crystalled, dully shining lump was almost at his feet. He stared at the crawling masses. They had come, apparently, from beyond a jutting wall of rock to his right. The floor was speckled everywhere with them, and now and again one slipped with a faint tinkle over the edge of the central pit. But there were hundreds more. One couldn't wait here until the floor had cleared. He skipped aside. Another had silently approached almost to his feet. He acted. Suddenly he seized the Peri, raised her bodily in his arms, and dashed in an angling, irregular course for the bridge. The girl squirmed and said, "Put me—" Then she lay very still as he picked his way as delicately as a dancer, sidestepping, skipping, twisting, to the copper spars and over it. Half running, he took the 4 sharp angles, and at last, breathless, he set the Peri on the rock on the far side. She looked coolly up at him. "Well," she said calmly, "why did you do that?" "That's pretty thanks for it," he snapped. "Don't you think I could have done that as well?" she retorted. "I asked you why you did it." "Because—" He paused. Why had he done it? He suddenly realized that he had no desire to see the exquisite Peri die. To see her humbled, yes, even to see her punished, but not to see her die. "It was pure impulse," he finished grimly. "If I'd thought a second or two, I'd have left you to die." "Liar," she said, but smiled. "Well, I thank you for your intentions, though I could have done quite as well alone. But you're very strong, and, Frank," her voice rose, "your foot, your shoe, quickly!" He blinked down. Scarcely visible on the leather, a grayish-black coating of crystals was spreading, and almost immediately came a prickling pain in his toe. With a growling oath, he kicked violently. The skin buskin went sailing in an arc over the pit, to fall squarely among the crawlers. Instantly it was a fuzzy mass of needle-like crystals. The Peri was on her knees. "Your toe!" she wailed. Swift as a serpent, she planted her own dainty foot firmly upon the arch of his. From somewhere she snatched a tiny jeweled penknife, its blade flashing sharp as a razor. Still resting her full weight on his foot, she cut. Despite his bellow of pain and surprise, she sliced away half his toenail and a goodly strip of skin beneath, kicked the bloody strip into the pit, examined her own pink toes for a moment, and faced Keen. For the first time in their acquaintance, she seemed shaken. Her wild green eyes were wide with concern, but it passed instantly. "Fool!" she snapped. "Fool!" He was staring aghast at his bleeding toe. "Good Lord!" he muttered. "That was a narrow escape. Well, I'm not so sparing in my thanks as you. I say thanks for it." "Bah! Do you think I want carbon feeders on this side of the pit? That's why I did it." "You could have pushed me into the pit, then," he retorted. "And I wish I had," she snapped. She turned abruptly and padded, barefooted, up the cavern toward the colony. Keen shifted his remaining buskin to his injured foot and limped after. He was in a turmoil of emotions. There was something splendid about this pirate princess, something more than the simple fact of her exquisite and fantastic beauty. He swore angrily to himself for even admitting it, but limped hastily until he caught her. "What's your name?" he asked abruptly. "If you need a name to address me," she said coldly, "let it be Commander." "The only person I'll call Commander is one I'm willing to serve, and that'll never be the Red Peri." She glanced sideways at him. "What's a name, anyway?" she asked in altered tones. "See here, you're Frank Keen, but you're neither keen enough to outwit me, nor frank enough to admit you love me." "Love you?" he snorted. "Love you? Why—" He broke off suddenly. Even if it were true, he went on, do you think I'd have anything to do with the pirate, a murderess? However I felt, I'd still exert every effort to bring you to justice. How many deaths have you caused? How much suffering? I don't know, she said, but murder? I never killed anybody except in sheer self-defense. So you say. What about the atrocities on the Hermes? She looked up at him. Frank, she said softly, I had nothing to do with the Hermes. Don't you realize that people blame everything on the Red Peri? Every captain who suffers from some sneaking little freebooter blames me for it. Why, I'd need 100 ships to commit all the crimes they've pinned on me. But you're a pirate, nevertheless. Yes, but I have my reasons. I have, Frank, and why should I justify myself to you anyway? I don't care what you think of me. All the same, he growled, I'll tell you what I think. I think your parents should have given you a series of good spankings. You're nothing but a spoiled, reckless, dangerous child. My parents? She echoed. Yes, do you think they'd be proud of you now? I hope, she said slowly, that one of them would be. She paused at the door of her chamber, unlocking it. Come in here, she ordered sharply. He followed her into the lavish interior. She disappeared into an adjacent room, returning in a moment with a bottle and a strip of gauze. Here, she said, dress your toe. It's nothing. It needs no dressing. Dress it, she snapped. I want no cases of infection here. I might, he observed as he took the bottle, die of the infection and thus save you a murder. Her green eyes seemed to soften. Remember this, Frank, she said in a low voice. I could have let you die back there at the edge of the pit. I could have, but I didn't. He had no answer. For a moment he gazed thoughtfully at the exquisite delicacy of her face, and then, irrelevantly, he asked again, What is your name? She smiled. Peri, she said. Really? Peri what? That's a strange name. Yes, it's the Persian word for imp or elf. I know. I've worked in Iraq, but it means more than just that. It's the name given to the child of a disobedient angel waiting to be admitted into paradise. Her features grew suddenly wistful. Yes, she murmured, waiting to be admitted into paradise. But Peri what? He repeated. She hesitated. If I told you, she said slowly, you might understand. I think I will tell you, Frank. Did you ever hear of Peri McLean? He frowned. Peri McLean, he muttered. I think so. Wait a minute. Do you mean Red Peri McLean, the inventor who had the famous legal battle with Interplanetary? But that was years ago. Years and years. I was a child of 7 or 8. You must scarcely have been born. I was just born. Peri McLean was my father. Red Peri, your father? And the ship? I see. Red Peri, named after him. Named by him after me. He built it. He built it purposely to be a pirate craft, and you can't blame him. Can't blame him? Why not? Listen to me, Frank. Her glorious eyes were intense and serious. Peri McLean was robbed by Interplanetary and their associates. Do you know how dangerous space travel used to be 25 or 30 years ago? Even 50 years after the first colonies were founded on Venus, it was a gamble with death to travel there. Trade was all but impossible because the rocket blasts kept failing and the ships kept crashing in trying to land or even plunged into the sun. And then the thermoid expansion chamber was developed. The blasts became steady, safe, usable. Trade was possible, and Interplanetary became an enormous, wealthy corporation. But do you know who invented the expansion chamber? Do you? Peri McLean did. He invented it and patented it. But Interplanetary wouldn't let a little thing like honor stand in their way. They copied the patent. They claimed one of their engineers had developed the chamber first. They fought the case through every court, and at last they fought Perry McLean out of money and won. It took 4 years to do it, and in the last year I was born and my mother died, and Perry McLean was ruined. But he didn't give up. He worked at anything he could find. He, the greatest rocket engineer in the world. He dug sewers and planned drainage systems. He did any sort of work, but meanwhile, all the time, he was carrying the idea of revenge. Evenings, he worked on the plans of such a ship as no one had dreamed of, a rocket with inherent stability, one that could flash through gravitational fields as easily as through interplanetary space, instead of teetering down on its jets, wobbling and compensating and inching lower. And when he had it, I was 3 then, he found those who supplied money to build it. He wasn't the only man Interplanetary had ruined. Others hated the corporation too. So he built the Red Peri and began raiding corporation ships. He had no trouble manning his ship. He could have had 1,000 men, but he picked and chose among the best for his crew. At first he worked out of the Australian desert as a base, but that became dangerous. He thought of the moon and of an asteroid, but at last, because he had a ship to which planetary distances meant nothing, he came here to build his colony. Save for the years I spent at school, I've lived here ever since.
But what of Red Perry McLean? Asked Keene.
He was killed 3 years ago. Do you remember when Interplanetary's Captain Thorson of the Lucretia shot one of the pirates? That was my father. He died and was buried as he wanted to be in space. It was I who killed Thorson with my own hand as he shot at me.
He stared at her. Those were certainly tears in the glorious emerald eyes.
Peri, he said softly, but what will be the end of it? Are you going on all your life, pursuing revenge for your father? You're not really hurting Interplanetary, you know. They carry insurance. But you are slowing down the development of the planets. It's come to a point where people are actually afraid to travel. Good, she flashed. Then it's less trade and fewer fares to swell the coffers of Interplanetary.
But good heavens, Peri, with a design like that of your ship, you could make millions legitimately.
Oh, of course, she retorted sarcastically, just as my father did from the thermoid expansion chamber.
There was no answer to that. He shook his head sadly. Then do you intend to live out your life as a pirate until you're finally captured, or until you die out here on this miserable black planet?
I do not. I intend to carry out the plans of Red Perry McLean. He wasn't fighting out of blind passion, you know. He built up his organization, here and on Earth, for a single purpose. Little by little, the plunder we take from Interplanetary goes back to Earth to be turned into cash and securities in banks in New York, London, Berlin, Paris, Tokyo. When I have enough, and $100 million will be enough, do you know what I'll do?
I don't, Peri.
His eyes were glued to her tense, lovely face. Then listen, she said fiercely. I'll open a line competing with Interplanetary. I'll build ships like the Red Peri, and I'll drive their corporation to ruin. I'll have them groveling and begging, but this time I'll have money enough so they can't fight with crooked lawyers and bribed judges. I'll annihilate them.
For a long time he stared at her strange loveliness, her wild green eyes and flaming hair. "Oh, Peri," he said at last, in tones of sadness, "don't you see how insane such a plan is? Don't you know that once you produce the design of the ship, you'll be known as the pirate? No one else knows of it."
"I don't care," she blazed. "The law can't touch anyone with $100 million. My father learned that from Interplanetary." and at his continued silence she snapped,
"Your advice would be to take it lying down, I suppose. I prefer to fight."
"But you don't have to declare war on the whole earth on account of an injury done to your father."
"War on the earth? I haven't, but—"
her green eyes glowed fiercely,
"if I ever should, I could give them such a war as they never dreamed of."
"What do you mean, Peri?"
"I'll tell you. Suppose I were to take one of those carbon feeders like the ones that nipped your toe. Suppose I took just one tiny crystal and dropped it in the jungles of Africa, or in Middle Europe, or in the wheat belt of America. All life has carbon in it. What would happen to the pretty green earth, Frank? What would happen to the crooked lawyers, and the bribed judges, and all the rest, honest and dishonest, right up to the heads of Interplanetary itself?"
"My lord," he said.
"Can't you see the crystal crawlers rustling their way along?" she cried. "Wheat fields, houses, horses, humans."
"Listen," he said huskily. "Do you know what I ought to do? I know what my duty is. It's to kill you, right now and here, while I've got you alone. Otherwise, that mad and reckless spirit of yours may some day drive you to do just that. I ought to strangle you now, but, by heavens, I can't." All the passion drained suddenly from her face, leaving it alluringly wistful.
"I'm glad you said those last two words, Frank," she murmured. "Look."
She raised her arms. He saw her hand resting firmly on the butt of her revolver.
"Would it please you," she asked softly, "if I promised you never to think again of that particular revenge?"
"You know it would."
"Then I promise. And now tell me if you still blame me for being the Red Peri. Do you?"
"I don't know. I think, perhaps, you are justified for feeling as you do. But, Peri, it's madness."
"What would you want me to do?"
"Why, the sane course, the honorable course, would be to make restitution, to return everything you've stolen, and then to give yourself up, to expiate the wrongs you've done, and so be free to live without the need of burying yourself out here at the edge of nothingness. I don't say you could do all of that, but at least you could return what you've taken, and live as you were meant to live, honorably and happily."
"Honorably and happily,"
she echoed bitterly.
"Yes, except for the realization that I had failed my father."
"Your father was wrong, Peri." She blazed in sudden anger.
"Oh, you're too smug and self-righteous to live. I was going to offer you your freedom. I thought you'd understand and protect me. But now do you think I dare trust you to return to Earth? Now you'll stay as my prisoner."
"Some day," he said evenly, "I'll drag you back to justice, Peri, and after you're free, you'll thank me for it."
"Get out!" she cried. "You're stupid. I hate stupidity."
He looked quietly at her angry, exquisite face, rose, and stalked out of the door. For a moment he stood irresolute in the corridor. Then he strode toward the room he shared with Solomon Nestor, ignoring the glances of a number of residents as he went. And as he opened the door, the first person he saw was the girl Elsa, in close conversation with the old man. They looked up as he entered, and the flaxen-haired girl drew away, staring at him with a curious expression in her blue eyes.
"Oh, bosh," said the old man. "Elsa, you're simply letting your imagination make you nervous. Listen, Frank, this girl came running here to tell me that you've been spending hours in the Red Peri's company, and that you're probably falling under her magic charms. And now Elsa's afraid you're going to betray her to the Peri. Ridiculous, isn't it?"
"Utterly," snapped Keen, wondering how much of it was ridiculous. He felt himself reddening, and repeated hastily, "Utterly ridiculous."
"You see,"
said old Nestor triumphantly.
"All right, Elsa, let's get on with this. You say you're sure you can't smuggle spacesuits to us?" "I'm sure I can't. They're kept locked up by the Red Peri, and I can't get to them." But your father and brother wear them when they go to either ship, don't they? Yes, but I wouldn't dare ask them. They'd tell the Peri, I know that. Well, said old Solomon thoughtfully, if we can't get spacesuits, we'll have to do it out. But you can get the key to one of the ships, can't you? Not to the Red Peri, said Elsa. To your ship, perhaps, because my father has that while he's working on it. I could steal it away from him, I think. He just keeps it in a desk.
What good would the limbo do us? Grunted Keen. They could run us down with the other. They could blast us to bits.
They could, but they won't, retorted the old man. You leave this to old Solomon. Now, Elsa, when will your father have the jet repaired? I think he's finishing it now. And could you smuggle the key to us tonight? I think so. I'll try, tonight or tomorrow. Good, said Solomon Nestor. You run along now, Elsa. You'll have your revenge on the Red Peri if you're a good girl.
The yellow-haired girl vanished. Old Nestor turned quizzical eyes on Keen and said mockingly,
Ridiculous, eh? Utterly ridiculous.
What?
That you should be impressed by the Red Peri. How could so unattractive a being affect the redoubtable Frank Keen? Very ridiculous.
Oh, shut up, growled Keen. I admit she's beautiful, and I admit that what she told me has changed my opinion of her. All the same, I think she's arrogant and overbearing. I'm just as anxious as ever to see her take a fall, and if I can trip her, that's fine. But I don't see how the key to the limbo helps.
You will. Tell me what the Peri said to you.
Keen recounted the story of Red Peri McLean. Despite himself, he told it with a tinge of sympathy, and when, after concluding it, he described the events at the Copper Bridge, he was uncomfortably aware of old Nestor's steady gaze. He finished his tale and stared defiantly back.
Well, said the old man, I suppose you realize that she risked her life for you, or at least the chance of having to cut off a finger or two. What if she'd touched the carbon feeders on your toe?
I hadn't thought of it.
And now that you do think of it, are you still so bitterly determined to humble her?
Keen considered. Yes, he snapped, I am. I don't want to hurt her, but I do want to get back at her for the way she's insulted, browbeaten, and mocked me. I want to see her take a fall.
Even though it means capture for her?
Keen groaned. Listen, Solomon, right now I'm so puzzled that I'm not sure, but I do know that I want to see the Red Peri paid back for the way she acted toward me.
All right, I think you're in love with her, Frank, though it's none of my business.
Damn right it isn't.
But, proceeded Nestor, just how badly do you want to do this?
With all my heart.
Would you risk your life and hers to do it?
My life, said Keen grimly, but not hers.
Good enough. Now, the first thing to do is talk you out of a few superstitions.
I haven't any.
You have, but you don't know it. Listen now.
The old man bent closer and began to talk in a low, earnest voice. At his first words, Keen paled and started. Then he sat very still and very intent. After 5 minutes of listening, he drew a deep breath, expanding his mighty chest to the full. I used to plunge at the university, he said exultantly. I could hold my breath for 4 minutes. I can still do 3.5.
That's plenty, said Nestor.
Yes, if it works. If it works.
If I were you, said the old man, I'd find out now.
For a full minute, Keen stared at him. Suddenly he nodded, turned swiftly away, and darted out into the corridor. In 5 minutes he was back again, but sadly changed, for his lips were swollen, his eyes red, and his breath a rasping gurgle. but he was smiling. "It works!" he gasped triumphantly. "It's unadulterated hell, but it works!"